The countdown has reached its most intense moment, and tonight, the area surrounding MetLife Stadium is no longer feeling like an ordinary concert destination. It feels like the center of a global celebration. As thousands of BTS fans begin gathering around the stadium ahead of tomorrow's highly anticipated ARIRANG concert, the streets are filled with purple lights, BTS banners, fan-made signs, music, cameras, and the unmistakable sound of ARMY chanting together. From the moment the sun began to disappear behind the New Jersey skyline, the number of fans seemed to grow with every passing hour. Cars arrived carrying groups of friends who had traveled from different cities, buses brought international fans who had spent months planning the trip, and hotel areas around the stadium became temporary meeting points for people who had never met before but instantly recognized one another through BTS shirts, ARMY bombs, photo cards, and familiar songs playing from their phones. The atmosphere was electric, emotional, and almost impossible to describe. Some fans were laughing and dancing, while others stood quietly looking toward the stadium, realizing that after years of waiting, tomorrow could finally become one of the most unforgettable days of their lives. But what happened around MetLife tonight was about more than simply waiting for a concert. It became a celebration of friendship, music, and the extraordinary bond between BTS and ARMY. As the crowds continued to gather, social media feeds began filling with videos showing fans singing together, exchanging gifts, practicing choreography, taking photos, and creating their own mini celebrations outside the stadium. Every few minutes, another group arrived carrying banners with messages for the members, while others wore coordinated outfits inspired by different BTS eras. Some fans had traveled for hours, while others had crossed international borders to be here. For them, the distance no longer mattered. The exhaustion no longer mattered. The long journey no longer mattered. They were finally here. And tomorrow, BTS would take the stage. That single thought was enough to send waves of excitement through the crowd. As night settled over the MetLife area, thousands of small lights began appearing throughout the gathering, creating a breathtaking scene that seemed to stretch farther than the eye could see. Fans raised their phones, switched on their light sticks, and began singing together. One voice became dozens. Dozens became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. The sound traveled through the night, creating an atmosphere that felt almost unreal. Nearby residents and travelers stopped to watch, while other fans captured the scene on their cameras and immediately shared it online. The anticipation had become a story of its own. Tomorrow had not even arrived, and already the ARIRANG experience was beginning. For many fans, this was the moment they had been waiting for. For others, it was the beginning of a journey they would remember for the rest of their lives. And as the final hours before the concert began to disappear, one question echoed through the crowd: if this is what MetLife Stadium looks like the night before BTS arrives on stage, what will happen when the gates finally open tomorrow? The area around MetLife Stadium continued to transform as fans arrived in waves, creating an atmosphere more reminiscent of a massive festival than the quiet hours before a concert. Groups of ARMY gathered in designated areas, sharing snacks, charging their phones, comparing concert outfits, and discussing which songs they hoped to hear during the ARIRANG performance. The excitement was visible everywhere. Purple accessories appeared throughout the crowd, banners were held above heads, and fans proudly displayed handmade artwork dedicated to BTS. Some carried photographs of their favorite members, while others brought carefully prepared gifts and friendship bracelets to exchange with people they had met through online fan communities. The diversity of the crowd was remarkable. Different languages could be heard throughout the gathering, reflecting the international reach of BTS and the global community that has grown around their music. Fans from across the United States stood alongside visitors from Asia, Europe, Latin America, Australia, and other parts of the world. Despite speaking different languages, they communicated easily through music, gestures, smiles, and their shared excitement. BTS songs became the common language of the night. Whenever a familiar track began playing from a speaker, conversations stopped and fans immediately joined in. Some danced in small circles, while others filmed their friends performing choreography. Every performance was met with cheers and applause. What might have looked like an ordinary crowd from a distance became a collection of thousands of individual stories when viewed up close. One fan had saved money for months to make the journey. Another had convinced a close friend to attend their first BTS concert. Another had traveled with family members who wanted to experience the phenomenon for themselves. There were longtime ARMY members who had followed BTS for years and newcomers who had only recently discovered their music. Yet by the end of the evening, those differences seemed to disappear. Everyone was waiting for the same thing. The anticipation surrounding the ARIRANG concert also created a major wave of activity across nearby businesses and public areas. Restaurants and cafes became gathering points where fans discussed the next day's schedule. Merchandise was carried through parking areas and hotel entrances. Rideshare vehicles continuously dropped off groups of concertgoers, while fans tried to organize transportation plans for the morning. Some carefully planned their routes to the stadium, while others focused on one simple goal: getting enough sleep before what they expected to be an unforgettable concert day. Security and event personnel remained an important part of the evening, helping maintain orderly movement and reminding visitors to follow venue rules. The massive enthusiasm did not mean everyone was ignoring safety. Many fans encouraged one another to stay hydrated, remain respectful of surrounding residents, and keep pathways clear. That sense of community became one of the most noticeable elements of the gathering. Fans were not only celebrating BTS, they were also looking after one another. Whenever someone needed help finding a friend, locating transportation, or finding a place to charge a phone, another ARMY member was often ready to help. As the hours passed, more videos appeared online showing the growing excitement around MetLife. Some clips captured spontaneous dancing. Others showed fans screaming when someone mentioned the possibility of seeing the members nearby. Many videos focused on the emotional atmosphere rather than any specific event. The message was clear: ARMY had arrived, and tomorrow was almost here. Inside hotels and nearby accommodations, fans continued preparing their outfits in concert bags. Some laid out their clothes carefully, checking every detail before placing their tickets and identification in secure locations. Others decorated their bags with BTS keychains, stickers, and handmade accessories. For many, the preparation itself was part of the experience. They knew that once the concert began, the night would pass quickly. So they wanted every moment before it to feel special. As midnight approached, the crowd began to change. Some fans started leaving to rest, while others remained awake, continuing their celebrations and conversations. The excitement did not disappear. Instead, it became quieter and more emotional. Fans began talking about their favorite BTS memories, the songs that had helped them through difficult moments, and the reasons they had decided to make this journey. It was during these conversations that the true meaning of the event became clear. The concert was not simply about watching famous performers on a stage. For many fans, BTS had been part of their lives during moments of happiness, loneliness, uncertainty, and personal growth. Tomorrow's concert represented an opportunity to celebrate all of those memories together. ARMY reactions among the thousands gathering around MetLife, the emotional reactions were perhaps the most powerful part of the night. Fans repeatedly described the experience as surreal. Some said they could hardly believe they were finally standing outside the stadium. Others became emotional when they saw the concert preparations taking shape. For longtime ARMY members, the night carried a special meaning because they remembered the earlier days of BTS, when international success was still only a dream. Standing outside a massive stadium years later felt like witnessing the result of an extraordinary journey. One fan described the feeling as being part of something bigger than ourselves, while another said that seeing people from so many countries gathered together proved how far BTS's music had traveled. Younger fans shared their excitement through videos and live streams, while older fans spoke about attending with children, siblings, partners, or lifelong friends. Many were determined to document everything. Phones were held high as fans recorded the crowd, the stadium lights, the banners, and the endless stream of people arriving. Yet despite the constant filming, there were also moments when fans simply put their phones away and looked around. They wanted to remember the atmosphere with their own eyes rather than through a screen. One of the most emotional moments came when a group of fans began singing together without any music playing in the background. Slowly, people nearby joined them. Within moments, the small gathering had become a large sing-along. The crowd applauded afterward, and several fans were seen wiping away tears. It was a simple moment, but it captured the spirit of the night perfectly. ARMY members were not just waiting for a concert. They were creating memories together before the concert had even begun. Social media reactions reflected the same emotion. Fans posted messages saying they had never seen anything like the atmosphere around MetLife. Others shared photographs of their concert outfits and thanked friends who had helped them make the journey. Some fans joked about being too excited to sleep. Others admitted they were already emotional and the concert had not even started. The anticipation became almost overwhelming as the clock moved closer to morning. International fans also talked about the journey required to reach the stadium. Some had spent hours on flights, trains, and buses. Others had planned their trips months in advance. For them, arriving at MetLife represented the end of a long period of preparation. The excitement was mixed with disbelief. They had finally made it. Tomorrow, they would see BTS. That thought alone brought tears to many faces. Families also shared emotional reactions. Parents who had traveled with their children described the experience as a chance to understand why BTS meant so much to the younger generation. Some parents admitted that they had originally known very little about the group but had gradually become familiar with the music through their children. Now they were standing together outside the stadium, preparing to experience the concert as a family. Friends who had met through BTS fan communities online finally met face to face, producing emotional hugs and celebrations. Some had been talking for years but had never physically met until this trip. The concert became the reason their online friendship turned into a real-world memory. This was perhaps the most powerful reaction of all. BTS had brought people together who might otherwise never have crossed paths. As the night continued, fans began making promises to each other. They promised to enjoy every song, scream as loudly as they could, take care of one another, and remember the night forever. Some exchanged bracelets with messages of friendship. Others wrote small notes for strangers. The atmosphere remained joyful, but there was also a sense that time was moving too quickly. Everyone knew that the waiting would soon be over. The next chapter would begin when the stadium doors opened. The final moments before the concert eventually, the night began giving way to the early morning hours, but the excitement around MetLife Stadium refused to disappear. The crowd slowly became quieter as fans prepared themselves for the final stretch before the concert. Some returned to their hotels to sleep for a few hours. Others remained nearby, unwilling to leave the atmosphere they had spent so long waiting to experience. The stadium stood illuminated against the night sky, silently reminding everyone of what was coming. Tomorrow, the lights would come on. Tomorrow, the music would begin. Tomorrow, BTS would stand on the stage. For fans who had spent months planning this journey, the final hours seemed almost unreal. The excitement was mixed with nervousness. Tickets were checked again and again. Phones were charged. Bags were organized. Outfits were prepared. Cameras were tested. Army bombs were placed carefully where they could be reached quickly. Everything was ready. The final conversations of the night became increasingly emotional. Fans talked about the songs they hoped BTS would perform and the moments they wanted to experience together. Some hoped to hear their favorite solo tracks. Others were waiting for the biggest group performances. Many simply wanted to see all 7 members standing together on stage and enjoy whatever happened next. That uncertainty was part of the excitement. Nobody knew exactly what tomorrow would bring, but everyone knew it would be special. As dawn approached, the streets around the stadium began to change again. The first signs of a new day appeared while fans slowly emerged from hotels and resting areas. Coffee shops prepared for another enormous wave of visitors. Transportation services became busier. fans began returning to the stadium, this time with even greater anticipation. The waiting was almost over. What began as a gathering the previous evening had become the opening chapter of a much bigger event. The stories, friendships, songs, photographs, and emotional moments created before the concert would remain part of the memory forever. And when the stadium finally opened its gates, every person entering would carry their own story with them. Some would remember the journey. Some would remember meeting new friends. Some would remember singing in the streets. Others would remember the moment they first saw the stadium lights glowing in the distance. But all of them would share one unforgettable memory, being there on the eve of BTS ARIRANG, surrounded by thousands of people who understood exactly how they felt. As the final hours disappeared and the morning finally arrived, one message seemed to connect everyone: the waiting was over. The stage was ready. The fans were ready. MetLife Stadium was ready. And somewhere beyond the walls, the next chapter of the ARIRANG journey was about to begin. The enormous gathering outside the stadium was only the beginning of the story, because tomorrow, when the lights dim and the first notes echo through the venue, the voices of ARMY will rise together once again. And when those voices meet the music from the stage, the long journey, the sleepless night, the travel, the anticipation, and every emotional moment leading up to this day will suddenly make sense. Whatever happens when the concert begins, one thing is already certain: the night before BTS ARIRANG at MetLife has created memories that fans will carry long after the final song has ended. Disclaimer: this script is written as entertainment-style storytelling and dramatization. Crowd sizes, reactions, and specific events described here should not be treated as independently verified news unless confirmed by official sources.